Okay, once again we're live on YouTube. Well, rather more accurately, I am live on YouTube. Here, Tuesday, July the 3rd. It's been a great week actually. I led this 3-day intensive which I've been planning for a while, spiritual boot camp last weekend from Thursday evening to Sunday afternoon, and that was that was a great group. I really appreciated it. It was fucking intense for everybody who came, but everyone stayed with the process, and it was a lot of release. People really discovering layers of old rage and anger that was held inside of them, putting it out, and layers of old wounds and pain and putting it out. And what particularly impressed me about the group and the participants was that we had such an age range of people coming to this workshop, from like age 22 up to age 74, and everyone was really going for it. Everyone was really going for it. And that's one of the great things about bioenergetics. Whilst it is quite physical, you don't have to make it totally physical all the time or totally a strain all the time. You can use the combination of exercises in certain ways so that you get a lot of deep release and let go, and really getting your energy stepped up, but without having to kind of go physically crazy, So I found that really a great event to run, and I had 3 excellent staff supporting me, and it was a great journey. It was really an awesome journey, and I'm looking forward to doing it again in February, if possible, maybe a little bit earlier as well. So, other big news of today, of course, is that England are playing Colombia in about an hour's time, and I could feel myself a little bit like, oh God, do I really want to watch it and engage all my emotional energy in England? Because in the past, in World Cups or European Cup, often you get really charged up and ready and super up for it, and they just play like shit or something, But they've been playing pretty good this year so far, and that's a bit of a stingy attitude from me. So I thought, no, I'm going to really fucking go for it and support them. So I'll finish this stream about 10 to 7, so I can get up to the top floor of the house where there's a big TV and a load of people will be watching the game. Yes, England are coming. We could make it. Yeah, we could make it to quarterfinals. We could make it to the final this year even, It's not beyond the bounds of possibility at all. A lot of really kind of traditionally good sides have either been knocked out or they're in the bottom half of or in the top half of the table. We're in the bottom half. Anyway, getting back to therapy and bioenergetics and all of that stuff. I'm appreciative for this long weekend we did. It was just it was deep, and people were coming from, some with a bit of experience, some with like no fucking experience whatsoever, but really getting into it, And I like this combination. I mix in emotional expression, some full-on challenging exercises with basic bioenergetics, and it's a good combination. I know if I used to run a lot of really full-on confrontational emotional expression workshops, and then the group tends to split a little bit in terms of people who are experienced or their age, and when you add the bioenergetics in as well, that doesn't really happen so much. You can do maybe I'm also a bit more experienced, but you can do some slightly more subtle stuff which also still has a very deep emotional effect on people. And I also gave 3 talks which helped things along, and I managed to stick those up on YouTube, and that felt good as well. So if you're one of the few people watching right now and you want to ask a question, then just stick it out. Just stick it out, because that's what I'm here for. I like doing the live streams and giving people a chance to ask a question, and you never know, you might think like, oh, my question is not really worth it, but other people listen in, in the next week 100 or so people will listen in, and it goes up as the weeks go by, and your question might really help someone else, so don't be too shy. Anyway, let's see if anything happens. What else can I chat about? Summer's here, and usually I'm not running so many intense therapeutic groups, but in this August I've got one going on. I've got a 2-day one with a friend of mine down here in Dorset, and I'm looking forward to that as well. Usually get 20-25 participants for that, and you can't really, with these kind of therapeutic groups, I know guys in the States who are running some great workshops and stuff, and they always get 100 participants, but for me it would be a bit tricky to really hold the space for the depth of therapeutic process that I put people through, You know, it is not. We don't fuck around. Basically, you know, there's safety, establish safety, and then you really get into some stuff and understand why it's such a good idea to clear this stuff out while you can. Hey, Kartikeya, just want to recommend breathing with mouth open or through the nose while doing bio. Generally, you breathe through the mouth because you want to get oxygen and energy into your body like this, basically. So you really activate your bodily centers. So in bio in particular, that's not advice for the rest of your life necessarily. And many other techniques like yoga use a lot of nasal breathing. And when you're energetically sensitive and quite inside your body, you can tell when you breathe through the nose, it's like energy kind of streaming up through your head, you know. And but with bio, you want to really, you're trying to, especially the kind of bioenergetics I tend to work with, is you're really trying to activate the belly a lot of the time. That's the underlying thing you're trying to do, and mouth breathing will do that basically more than nasal breathing, because you're kicking into the male side more strongly, and that exaggerates the level of emotionality and energy in the body. So with pretty much all bio exercises, some where you're moving your head in a certain way, you can't easily breathe through the mouth, so you have to breathe through the nose, but generally breathing through the mouth. And it's a very, very important element of bioenergetics that a lot of people do not get, you know, and even other teachers do not get often. You know, you're in these stress positions and you really need to fucking breathe. It's not sitting there waiting for the ding to go or waiting for it to end, hanging in this weird position, whatever. You need to breathe and engage with your body. That is what starts to create the release from the muscles, you know. You cannot expect it to happen if you just kind of, you know, you're hanging there in the arch position and, you know, you're just busy off somewhere else thinking about what you're going to do later. You get a little bit of opening, but it is 5-10 times more when you really engage with your breath and you really engage with your body. Do you do any breath work outside of the bio work? Yes, I'm lead rebirthing a bit here and there, which is a breath work technique. I never really formally trained in rebirthing, but I did a lot of it, and I feel completely confident with it. So I do also lead rebirthing, but the bio is what I'm really into these days. And I will, when I'm working therapeutically with people in the group room or one-to-one, I will add in a lot of emotional expression, particularly working with anger, you know, which I'm also highly trained in. But that's kind of stuff you can't do so easily on YouTube, because it wouldn't really be kind of ethical in a sense, you know. To do really more extreme emotional expression practices, you know, you need to do that in a more held environment with people who really know what they're doing, like me essentially, or someone else who's been properly trained. You know, you can't really just start doing it in your room and expect for it to work very well, or, you know, to go very deep. When you work with a lot of screaming and shouting on a really deep kind of bodily level, you know, it can spin you out quite a lot, you know, so it needs to be done by someone who really knows what the fuck they're doing, basically. It's not so ethical otherwise. So on YouTube, you know, I tend to teach bio. You know, if I was trying to teach rebirthing, that would be one video basically, and that would be the end of it. You know, it's not something that there's a whole heap of different positions or stuff that you can do with it. You're basically lying on a mattress and engaging with your breath. If you're interested in breath work and you want to do a bit on your own, you can check out, I keep meaning, in fact, I actually recorded a breathwork session to put online for people just to follow along, because you can do it like that, you know, but it didn't come out very well, the recording. I used my phone and I thought it would be good, and it wasn't so good. So it wasn't so great, so I've left that for now, but I might get it together to make a 1 hour breathwork recording sometime for people on YouTube. Okay. Messages, even though I put silent on. But you know, you can look for something called the quantum light breath, which is the chap who made it's passed away now, but the original forms of it, which are a bit kind of, I don't know, the recordings aren't very good and it's got lots of weird music in it. But the main thing when you're doing breath work on your own is you need someone who's on your ass reminding you to breathe, because people space out left, right and center, you know. It's the basic condition of Western man or Western woman. As soon as we start to breathe more deeply, we start to feel more deeply, and our defensive layers cut in to take us out of there, you know, and it happens so quickly, most people have no clue that it's going on. So if you're doing breath work to a recording, you need a guy who's running it, who's really on your ass, or a woman who's running it, who's really on your ass, reminding you to constantly to keep on breathing and to check that you're really engaging with your body properly as you breathe. And there's a guy, Jeru Kabal, who wrote a couple of CDs. Like I said, they're not high quality, but they get the job done. There's one called Transforming Negative Attitudes, and there's one called Sunrise of the Soul. Those two are pretty good. They're about an hour long. You can check them out. You might even be able to download them somewhere, or get them off someone. He was Californian, I think, and he passed away quite a few years ago. But they're both excellent. There's not very much good breath work on CD or MP3 in my experience. It's too fluffy and new age, and you need to be kind of a bit driven and your hand held the whole way, because people are just spacing off left, right, and centre. Nevertheless, it's a brilliant technique. It's a brilliant technique to use, but you do need someone a bit on your ass on the MP3 to keep it going. Yeah, I enjoy breath work, but I do enjoy the and it's very useful in groups sometimes when I'm running workshops, because it's kind of like your mind will sit back at some point and some natural bodily process can just occur, or some natural sound comes out of your throat without a lot of kind of mind-driven screaming and shouting, so it can be very, very useful in longer group process, and that's where I like to bring it in. I might do a bit in the next 3-day intensive. Hi again. Yeah, I've been doing bio for a few months now, and exactly as you said, the days in conscious, maybe I feel a bit different. Yeah, that's the key. That's the key, really. People miss it. They get, the kind of world we live in and how we learn things. We think, oh, we're doing the position, it must be right. You need to get in a position, you need to constantly check the position, and you need to constantly check your breathing, basically. And to do that, you need to be really present in your body, edge of the comfort zone in the position, breathing through the mouth deep, and feeling your body. Those are the 3 elements. And when you get those 3, then you can start to really develop on your own, and you can go quite a long way on your own, but generally you need a bit of a grounding from a proper therapist before you start, unless you're really exceptional. Otherwise, people tend to wander around in circles a little bit, and they don't understand enough about resistance and stuff. I have to be a little more aggressive than what I'm comfortable with breathing. Yeah. Generally, you have to really breathe. You have to really engage, And there is a resistance to feel in pretty much all Westerners, I mean, a lot of people worldwide. It's a bit of a myth, really, that there's some, I don't know, living in Papua New Guinea or somewhere, some primitive guys who are really, really connected and sorted. I'm sure if you go there, then you'll find out they're maybe not quite as fucked up as the average Westerner, but probably not far from it, or certainly busy with most of the same kind of stuff. So pretty much no one really wants to, it's until we really decide, hey, we're going to really engage with our body, with the feelings in our body, come right back into the body and feel that a lot of change can happen in our lives, and we can really get stuff together. At the minute, humankind is still in a kind of opening phase of, exploration outwards, and it's bullshit. I mean, it's not bullshit, but it's weak, basically. The exploration inwards is the real challenge. That's the real challenge. You might think it's a fucking hardcore to do some bungee jumping, and it is a bit, parachute out of something, or be left on some mountaintop in Ecuador with only your shorts and a penknife to survive on for a month or whatever, and it's okay. I'm sure you get stuff from it. But if you do bioenergetics and really deep internal therapy stuff, to me that is a far deeper and much more challenging experience. Not that I've ever been on a mountaintop in Ecuador in my boxers and a penknife, but that's how I see it personally. It's all very well to go for all these exciting outer experiences, and it's okay, nothing wrong with that. But if you're not doing the inner journey as well, it'll catch up with you. You miss the challenge, and then on a bodily level, you will miss a lot. The inner work is what's needed, and that desire to come in and confront yourself on an emotional level, in reality, is finally what makes the difference between people who really get a result out of life and people who are just kind of trolling along, living in a bit of a dream world somewhere, repeating stories in their minds of positive or negative or whatever. When you start to really come into the body and you start to really engage with your body, then you can really step up. And there's no one on the planet that cannot do it. A lot of people couldn't jump out of a plane. couldn't go and bungee jump 100 meters, you know, it would be too infirm for them. It doesn't matter if you're paraplegic. You can go on it in a journey. There's no problem. There's no problem. The only excuses are coming from your own mind, basically. You know, and finally, on a deeper level, it's what the world is about. It's not about all this make the world a better place. It's a load of bollocks. It's a load of bollocks, basically, if I'm really being brutal about it. You know, it's about having the triggering experiences out in the world and being able to look inside and see what's going on. You know, I don't believe in God the Father and stuff, but, you know, this planet all looks very understandable, but it's not on a deeper level at all. You know, these scientists, they'll get there one day. You know, they're so mindy, they don't really realise what's right in front of their face most of the time, if you ask me. Reality is, you know, our whole sensory systems were conditioned to function during the hunter-gatherer phase and all of the biological evolution before, you know, and then scientists go around, you know, trying to use their sensory systems to understand the world. It's a fucking waste of time. Of course it's a waste of time, because your brain was conditioned to help you have sex, to get food, and to fight off predators. Or if you are a predator, to kill and eat. You know, it wasn't conditioned to go around trying to understand the world. And yes, you can use it to build a few bridges and stuff, but you won't really understand fuck all about the world through thinking and mind. You won't really. And any truly sussed scientist will tell you that's true, in my opinion. In my opinion, because the brain wasn't designed for it. It's not fit for purpose. I'm getting on one a bit today, but I mean, it's not fit for purpose. The brain is there. It's not there to be nice. It's not there to give you a nice personality. You start doing that shit, you probably end up with cancer, quite apart from not getting many of your real deeper needs met, you know. Shit things always happen to nice people, and there's a reason for that, you know. Maybe it sounds harsh, but there's a reason for that. You're not here on this planet to be a nice guy. It's bullshit. It's complete bullshit, you know. You're not here. You're here to look inside, find out who you are, and really go for it with life. That's what it's here for. You know, it's not to be some whining idiot, you know, trying to change the world and hiding from themselves and all their feelings inside. It's meaningless. Hey, Mohammed. Hi, man. Can bioenergetics improve posture? Yeah, of course it can. It will improve posture. People will ask me all sorts of things if it'll improve, and, you know, it won't always make you lose weight or make your genitals get larger, but it will improve your posture over time. Absolutely, you know. I mean, originally that was what it was created for. You know, essentially from Alexander Lowen and Wilhelm Reich's work, you know, after the Second World War. And Reichian characterology in particular looked at creating 5, in fact, at the time, personality stereotypes from looking at people's body posture. And then you get a series of corrective poses, bioenergetic poses to go in to supposedly correct you, you know, so that they had quite heavy labels, these 5 stereotypes, you know. It was pretty hardcore. But if you got one of those labels today, you probably think, fuck, you know. I think it was oral, rigid, psychopath, masochist, and can't remember the other one. Psychopath, masochist, oral, rigid, and schizophrenic. I think schizophrenic. Right, could characterize these five kind of types. You know, if someone told you today that you know, you've been characterized as a rigid psychopath, you'd probably freak out and think, bloody hell, I'm about to go and start blowing people away in a shopping mall or something. But that wasn't really the intention at the time. It was merely to point to certain characteristic traits for the evidence in the posture. So Reich was busy trying to relate human posture, how you stood and presented yourself, with your personality, you know, and that's kind of out of fashion these days, and that's okay as far as I'm concerned. You know, the bioenergetics I'm doing is a bit different, but to answer your question, it will most certainly help you with your posture. For bow and the arch in particular, a lot of postural problems come from the lower back, essentially. I'm not a postural expert, but a lot of postural problems come from the lower back, and the bow and arch starts to open up the lower back, basically. And you do it gradually, building it up, and it will start to create a lot of change in your life. Good to have a therapist check you every now and again. Deborah, hey man, cool to hear from you. Been doing the triple opener, yeah, it's good, eh? Feels good. Yeah, once you get going with that thing, you know, that is an excellent thing. I've been doing it most mornings. I've been doing it. I might even give it a different name. I'm not sure. I thought about its name of like the armor breaker. I don't know what you think of it. In the old days, body armor was like a very common term about 20 years ago in therapy, you know, body armor, where, you know, people are really held, you know, where they've got this, you know, heavy muscles here, you know, from taking over too much responsibility or working on the computer. Used to call it body armor, you know, and people have really rigid kind of stuff, where their mind is really rigid and there's a lot of trauma inside. And with this thing, particularly with the belly and the bit where you're using, but if you can get, the tricky bit is to keep those shoulders going, because I'm teaching this stuff all the time, and some people really keep it good and some people drop out easily. In fact, guys seem to drop out more easily than women, has been what I've been noticing so far. Maybe they got a bit more held in the shoulders, but it is an armor breaker, you know. It really starts to open the body up over time. If you can do 15 minutes of that triple opener, I think in the mornings, it's really beneficial. And I've been teaching it to some guys who run workshops in the States, in California, and they're getting right into it as well. So you know, that stuff's coming. If you ask me, I'm very happy with this triple opener. I think it's a very, very powerful movement. When you teach bio a lot, you always need stuff to open with, you know, basically. Sometimes I would use the bow and the arch. That's quite strong, especially early in the morning when your body's not so limbered for people. And that's traditional, to use the bow and the arch to open with. Or I would open with foot exercises, but they're useful, but you don't always need them. But this triple opener is a great opening exercise, so I also like that. Something that really starts to get people's energy moving. So the other exercises you do go deeper, basically. Have you got anything to say about procrastination? Seems like it would be related to resistance, which I find a really useful concept. Yes, it's related to resistance. You know, we all have our own techniques for resisting, you know. We know something's good for us. We know we want it, you know, inside. If you imagine like they do in spiritual things, a higher self says, yes, go for it. And here at your normal level, you say, oh yes, but I'll do it tomorrow or whatever. You know, you just need to stop that stuff, basically procrastination. You've got to get real with it. Something you can use, I've even got it here, I haven't been using it, I must admit, so much recently, but I've been getting better, is Dev's Resistance book, you know, and you get a little book like this you can carry around in your pocket, and you write down all the excuses you use not to do the stuff you're meant to be doing, you know. Often at work, you know, I've got a list of things I'm meant to do, and there's one or two things which sit, you know how it is, they sit down the back somewhere, and they never quite get done. And that makes you inefficient and ineffective, you know, and stops you from really being, you know, your full, most vibrant self with everybody. So then you write down all these excuses, you look at them every day and you think, fuck, I've got to stop this shit. Procrastination can be fear there as well, you know. So like in old behavioral therapy, which was very popular in the 60s and 70s and 80s, you know. Okay, if you're afraid of ringing up someone or whatever it is, some guy at work, you know, you've got to ring this guy up, but he's a real pain in the ass to deal with or whatever. Take a deep breath, do it, get centered and go for it, you know. Look at your job list, or look at the job, make a list of stuff you want to do, and look at the ones that you're really resistant of doing after a week or so, and just do them. Just do them. It feels so good when you do that, you know. It feels so good when you do it. You need courage, but you got courage, man. You got courage. You're doing a triple opener, you can stop procrastinating for sure. No problem. No problem. Let's check the chat. Pretty quiet today so far. Anyway, if anyone else out there's got a question, it's been a bit quieter the last couple of sessions in terms of number of people. Cheers, yeah, good one, man. It's been a bit quieter the last couple of weeks. I'll see if it picks up a bit today, or maybe the summertime people have got a bit of better stuff to do than worry about therapy. That is usually the case. It's usually the case because, like, you know, I mean, do you really want to be doing all this therapy when the sun's out in England? Usually, it's such a result. You know, you feel so good. It's like, you know, who wants to sit inside doing bioenergetics? Of course, if you do it in the mornings, you have an even better time, you know. If you want to chill out, actually one of the best things to do is to go and do half an hour of bioenergetics on your day off, because, you know, after that you can really fucking chill, you know, you can chill big time. That's usually what I do. I'm off for a couple of days chilling out at south of Dorset, Isle of Purbeck, later in the week with my girlfriend, and quite looking forward to that. I'm pretty good at getting on with exercises and things that are good for me like that. Hopeless at paying bills and organising shit. Well, that's the thing, you know. It's like you got to look, you know. You're getting involved with this stuff. You've got to look on a self-awareness level. What's the issue around paying bills? What goes on in your mind? What's your normal excuse why you don't pay the bill or get something organised? Because bottom line is, you know, we need to organise stuff. We're living in a world where you need to organise stuff, you know. So unless you're rich enough to get someone else to do it all for you, you know, your life could fall behind. And often it's not, half this stuff isn't so hard, I don't know. So it's good to look inside, you know. I mean, it's good to use a little book like this, write down this stuff, and then investigate, you know, what is going on inside of me. Because this inner journey is the deepest thing you can do in life, you know. And it's the key, really, you know. Out there, the culture in the West, America and whatever, in Europe, you know, it'll tell you that you need all these external things in order to be successful. It's a load of bollocks, you know. I mean, it's just a load of bollocks. Yes, it's good that you can dress nice and present yourself well, you know, to get some job working for some fucking corporation somewhere or whatever. But even, you know, you might want to, it's okay, you know, but you need this inner awareness, and you can always get it. You can always move deeper, you know, and as you do, your life just gets better. You know, you feel more confident when you start to understand what's going on inside, and you create some space to release any old trapped feelings, when you create space to move through fear. You know, back in the 80s, they had a great thing called rapid change therapy, or it may have had a slightly different name. It's manifested in a few places in the States and in the UK. And you'd go to see the therapist and you talk about your resistance and the bad stuff that you're doing. And he wouldn't let you rattle on about it for too long. He'd say, right, change it. This week, change it. Come back next week and let's see, we'll work with the feelings that come up. Because usually, so if, for instance, you know, if someone, you know, has great trouble organising stuff they need to organise, say, right, just got to organise it. Get it done now. Go out from this session, do the stuff you need to organise, and then come back next week, see the feelings that are coming up. You know, bad behaviours or behaviours that you think aren't supporting you, you change them and you see what feelings come up. And that way you get awareness. You get awareness. You know, if you're always dressing a bit scruffy and you're a young guy and you want to actually go out there and dress to impress, but you're a bit afraid, you know, people see you like that, you know, a therapist is going to make you get the most outrageous fucking outfit you can and just walk around in it in the middle of the city, you know, so that you can go into, you can breathe and feel the feelings that come up, you know, the feelings that come up. You go and do weird shit. Not stuff that's going to put you in prison, but stuff that you can do, and you keep on breathing and feeling, and you desensitize yourself to your trips, basically. And it's really supportive stuff. There's not so much of this going on. A bit in you know, kind of self-help groups and coaching, you know, life coaching and stuff like that. But you can do it, you know. I was on a workshop once in India, in Goa. And one afternoon, you had to get a 1 rupee coin, which is about that size, like a quarter in America or a 10p in England, or like a euro, and stick it on your forehead. Wet your forehead and stick a one rupee coin there, and walk around fucking Mapsa Market, you know, with just stacks of Indians laughing their tits off at you, or otherwise just looking at you and pointing and coming up to you and saying, "Why are you wearing 1 rupee coin on forehead?" and all of this kind of thing. And you know, at first I was like, "Fuck this." You know, there's a load of us going in. I mean, slowly, we had about 5 of us, guys and girls, all with these 1 rupee coins on the forehead. And then we were like a little gang, it wasn't so bad, but at some point we had to, you know, just go our separate ways. And it was kind of weird. I actually found it not as challenging as I thought I would do, partly because I wasn't in my own culture. If I'd been walking around Oxford Street or London with a 1 rupee coin or 10p piece, it might have been a bit more. But it was still challenging. You know, this feeling like, you know, people are looking at me and laughing and thinking, what the fuck is that idiot up to, you know, got a 1p coin stuck to his bloody forehead, you know, and it was great. It's a great experience. And in like manner, you know, if you're scared to really dress up smart and cool and just go out, go and get a real flash outfit, something really over the fucking top, you know, bit of a Adidas Pharrell Williams or something like that, you know, or what else we got here? Adidas Muhammad Ali tracksuit top, you know. Go out, just go out wearing that stuff. Just go out wearing it, you know. And something that, you know, you jump out of your comfort zone with, you know, not in that area where you're going to get beaten up or someone's going to rob your £150 Adidas Muhammad Ali top, you know, but just go out wearing it and just keep breathing and feeling what you're going through, you know. You gotta do it, you know. You've got to do it. You know, it's like, and then, you know, when it comes to just dressing a bit smarter, it's easy. And this is another basic principle in therapy. When you're working, you know, with someone, when I'm working one-to-one or in the group room, you know, you get people to stretch out as far as they can. You know, if they're scared of anger or really being a talk, if they're scared of just even saying no to anything, you get them to full on fucking scream at people, loud as they fucking can. Because when they desensitize a little bit to that, and then when they go out, they'll be more confident just to take a step and say no, You know, it's another principle. You push people as far as you responsibly can as a therapist in the group room or in the session, and then, you know, so they jump right out of their comfort zone this far away, and because they start to desensitize, when they go out of a group room, they can jump this far away, okay, you know, and they can start to speak up and say no to what they want, you know. It's a basic principle. I used to live in Japan, and once we dressed up in a full Kiss costumes. Oh, Kiss for band, yeah, Gene, what's his name, wandered around the town. Fucking hate Kiss as well, pretty funny. Yeah, it's good stuff to do, man. It's good stuff to do. It's good stuff. You know, dressing up outrageous and just walking around. Sometimes people go so far they kind of dissociate a bit, you know, and it becomes a bit of a kind of narcissistic habit. You want to do it and still somewhere really feel what's going on inside your body. You know, when people are seeing you and thinking, what the fuck is that guy up to, you know? You start to desensitize. But it's really good work to do because, you know, in today's culture, if you want to really step up, you've got to be willing to confront yourself, at least to that level and above it, basically. You know, you've got to be willing. Just give it a go. A friend of mine in Budapest teaches pickup and stuff, you know, the young guys and that, and they just end up walking around the streets talking to people and stuff like that, and it starts to desensitize you. You know, it desensitizes you to just speaking. It's not a be all and end all, you know. A lot of guys go off in their mind and in weird trips a bit with it as well, you know. It all gets, you know, you need the kind of stuff like bioenergetics you need as well, you know, to really get that bodily feeling and energy going, you know, get you in your gut center. But it's still great, you know, to break through some of the shyness and the social anxiety. You know, you can't beat it. It's amazing the world we live in, you know. It's like, but the bottom line is no one's really going to give you much of a lift up, you know. But if you want it, you can get it. You know, it's only your own mind that's in the way. It's only your own mind that's in the way. Nothing else is in the way. It's only your own mind and your own trips. So, yeah, anyone out there watching, you got a question, just stick it out. What the fuck? Why not? Like I say, it's handy for other people as well. A lot of people will listen to this stream in the next few weeks. And, you know, maybe your question is really useful for them. Maybe you do them a massive favor by putting your question out. Or any insights, any reflections, any stuff you've seen in the last week. You know, I've been having a good week, you know, doing this 3-day intensive as well, leading it. And because it's the first one, you know, I'm kind of super aware of the people and whatever and thing. And I wasn't sleeping so much. We were up late and then up early in the morning and stuff. And I wasn't sleeping very much. And I was quite aware, you know, how much I still need to relax areas around the back of my energetic heart. The tension that I can develop there when I'm attracted to do too much computer work and stuff. And, you know, it's awareness for everyone. There's 3 staff members with the group, and, you know, they're in the sessions helping people, and, you know, the energy in the room sometimes is really pumping out, you know, even when people are doing mattress exercises, and they are getting, you know, they're getting stuff going on in their own system, a bit like passive smoking, but in a good way, you know. So they get their whole own energetic process going on simply by assisting the group, you know. So, you know, it's great to do this stuff. Anyway, people keep sending me messages. I thought I'd blocked it, but anyway. Okay. So if you got a question, just go for it. Just stick it out, you know. I'm here to support people who want to step up. You know, I want to trying to get it together. I've been toying with this idea since last week of doing something in Bristol, in London, trying to get like a fortnightly men's group together, you know, of real step up bioenergetics, followed by a little hangout afterwards, go for a drink or a coffee or something like that. Because, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know I ran men's groups a little bit for a while, and I still do a bit at Leela, but I still feel like, yeah, it's something you want to get the guys to support them to come together, because I think the guys are getting a rough deal in society, big time, you know. Mostly we just seem to be left as slaves, basically. From what I can gather from a lot of guys sitting on minimum fucking wage, aged 23, and it's a fucking drag, you know. And working together, you can get this stuff done, and you can really move up, start to go beyond your limits, and get support from the other guys as well. Useful, you know, feedback and useful support to keep yourself in a good place moving forwards. So I'm looking at getting that together in Bristol. I'm still thinking about it. If you're in the Bristol area and you're interested and you're male, then let me know. People talk about men discovering their feminine side, but isn't the problem that men need to discover their masculine side? I mean, for me, how I look at it, you know, is that you need to, as a guy, you've got to first of all make friends with your masculine side. Do that first, and then you can look at your feminine side, you know. That's how I see it. Both are good. Both are good. And the truth is, once you're really confident in your masculine side and you feel okay to really be the guy, you know, when you want to, you know, then you can go in your feminine side as well. I had curious experiences with women sometimes who saw me as very male and stuff. And then girlfriends who like, you know, if I ever wanted to be a bit female and inner and intuitive for the day, you know, they get the hump with it, you know. Like, what the fuck, you know? It's like, they're like, no, you've got to be fucking James Bond today or whatever, you know, like some alpha bloody male. You know, it gets a bit boring after a while, you know. It's good to have a range of stuff. I was in my 30s and I was living for a while in Bangkok, which at the time was a very, very crazy city with all sorts of mad shit going on. And a whole load of young guys, all aged in their early 30s, basically, would go charging out on the town every second night, getting utterly fucking wasted and getting into all sorts of mad situations with Thai women or bar girls, basically, all sorts of crazy shit. And it was great fun. And at some point I thought, you know what, I could also learn more about women now, you know. I could become a bit more, you know, understanding women myself instead of just endlessly trying to get off with them or doing just crazy mad shit with the guys, you know. And there is something in that where if you get your male side really moving as a guy, you know, and you feel okay to really take a position and put down boundaries, you know, and you can project your energy forwards and take a position clear. At some point, you don't want to do that shit all the time. You get into the feminine side, you get into the heart stuff. You know, you get into talking about your wounds and where, you know, your life got fucked over. But what I see is a lot of guys just wanting to go in the feminine side and they haven't got into the fucking masculine side yet. So I don't think it's so useful to just keep on going in the feminine side. I mean, I live in a community in the alternative scene, and it is riddled with guys who basically very, very much afraid of the male side. You know, and then the challenge for these guys is to come back in that direction. Very, very afraid of it, you know. The spontaneity, you know, the level of judgments that society can have about you as a guy, you know. The feeling like you just want to fuck women and be an utter fucking predator. You know, they're terrified of these sides. A lot of them have dads who were, you know, violent or alcohol abuse, predatory behaviour, and they resolved somewhere as a kid they're not going to be like their dad. They're not going to be that kind of guy. But the trouble is you cut your balls off and it doesn't work, you know. So I'm around this scene a lot. I won't bore everyone rigid by going on about it too much. But I do believe, you know, you've got to get the male side first. Because you were born with male genitals, you know, basically. And yes, amino acids and whatever, things can change and you can be, you know, have a guy's body but be more of a woman. But for the vast majority of guys, you need to get the male side going first, and when you feel confident with that, you know, get the heart going, you know. I read an interesting book about Jungian archetypes. It was promoting getting in touch with a mature masculine power rather than the immature masculine power. Yeah, there's a lot of this kind of stuff around, you know. I don't relate to it so easy. I was in the tantra scene once, and they would endlessly be going on about the mature masculine and the immature masculine and the mature feminine, and I don't relate to that stuff really. Maybe I've got too much of a male side to be bothered with all of this. It can go into a lot of mind fucking, and basically the mind, this frontal cortex is, you know, trying to work out how to be, and it's a load of bullshit basically. You don't need to do that stuff. You don't need to work out how to be. You know, Jungian stuff, yes, it's interesting to a degree, but the bottom line is, you know, can you really move with your energy from your guts, from your base? You don't need to worry too much about, okay, is my behavior now an immature masculine or a mature masculine? The danger is you just stay up in your head when you do that stuff. So I don't recommend heaps of reading generally, personally, when I'm working with people. I don't find it useful because my whole basic approach is to take you away from a thought-based reality progressively. You start to open up the gut, you know, less and less do you need thoughts. You don't need to worry about, you know, and there's a time and a place for everything. You can be an utter fucking predator or a complete hooligan, you know, as a guy, and it's okay sometimes. It's totally okay because you're in your center doing it, you know. You're in your center doing it, you know. And then, you know, if you're sitting there, I imagine some people would be sitting there reading books about I mean, he's not a bad guy, David Data, you know, but there's too much of this immature male, this monitoring and understanding and mind stuff, you know, and it's like walking around the swimming pool. It's like walking around the swimming pool, and you know one day you got to jump in. No book is going to tell you what water is like. You know, it can't. You can describe. You can read a book about water, but you ain't ever. It's not the same as jumping into a swimming pool. It's not the same, and so that's how I see these things. And yes, it is interesting as well. You know, Jungian archetypes and stuff like that. But it's good for. I don't find it useful for guys who want to develop to think about it too much. Thinking is a bit counterproductive in my experience. You know, it's not so useful. It's better to just jump into the space and really look, who are you? You know, I work path of awareness. That's my basic path. That's non-verbal. It's not non-verbal in the sense. It's not reading and writing. It's not intellect. It's not intellect. You might refer to the intellect, but it's mainly people use the intellect to avoid their emotionality, to avoid their volatility, you know, to rationalize stuff that's going on in their life, and then they get more cut off from their emotionality, you know. So I don't recommend doing stuff like that or getting too into it. I never had so much time for Carl Jung. Osho used to take he used to rip the shit out of Carl Jung, you know. But it's quite funny. The bad one, who was my primary, not that I ever met him, but is my primary master basically. And he said famously about Carl Jung had written this book. I mean, he got to be about 50, Carl Jung or something, and he decided he was going to kind of leave his wife and go off with a younger woman. And pretty normal male behavior in some ways, and sometimes female behavior. But you know, rather than kind of say, bye dear, you know, that's the end, you know, and it's sorry I'm being a motherfucker, but I've just got to go and do it, you know, which is at least being a bit honest. He proceeded to write a book about how older men need both the mother and the lover mistress kind of archetype. You know, that was Carl Jung's way of dealing with his you know, his own emotions. Basically write a massive rationalizing fucking book about it, and not even include the bit about how the older woman might want, you know, the stable man for support and the young lover, you know, not even do the opposite. So I mean, Osho used to ridicule Carl Jung quite a lot, and I think it's okay, you know, these mindy kind of guys. Yeah, it is interesting and stuff. I mean, it's interesting for the mind, but you know, it's very much walking around the swimming pool as opposed to jumping in. You know, you have to at some point come away from a thought-based reality, because you're not a fucking computer. Basically, at the end of the day, you're not a computer. You're a human being. You got a body. It's got power centers in it. You know, it's got a heart center in it. You know, and that's what we're here to develop and to move with. You know, simple as that. If it was up to me, if I was God, all these thinkers and intellectuals, no way would I let them have another life as a human. No fucking way. Got to go back to animal stuff. You're not been misusing this brain. You go back to being like a frog or something like that. You know, so you can get it a little bit. It's not about this great big brain doing all this stuff. You know. Well, let's do another 10 minutes or so, then I'm gonna head on upstairs to support England a bit. Yeah, so if you've got a question or something you want to just reflect on or put out, or an insight you've had, just go for it. Humans seem to be declining into frogs. Yeah, I don't know. Could be. I don't know. I see that humans are kind of thinking like crazy these days, you know, thinking. What way are they becoming like frogs? Be interested to hear your view, Ride Forever. Yeah, is humanity rising or declining? Is there kind of what is it, the blind? What is anyone guiding it all? You know, is anyone guiding it all? I think to a degree there is guidance. You know, I believe that there are, to a degree, higher planes of existence and discarnate entities, and they kind of have a go. But you know, I think a lot of discarnate entities are a bit of a fucking drag as well. You know, sometimes I'm working with the, you know, heavy body-based therapy, and I get very spiritual people in, and then they start saying that their guide is telling them not to do this confrontational exercise for some rather mindy reason. And I say, well, why did you come along to the group or whatever, you know? But they kind of use it as an excuse to avoid themselves. I had a girlfriend once who was massively into spiritual stuff, and then we were going to go away on this holiday, and then she bumped into my ex-girlfriend, who was a bit of a bitch, really, and she got a bit scared by my ex-girlfriend who was giving her a hard time, and then she suddenly decided that her guides had told her that she shouldn't go away on this holiday. I lost a bit of respect for it there, you know. But I mean, yeah, whatever you need, you know. But at the same time, I think there is a level of upper planes management, so to speak. Is culture falling apart? To a degree, I think it is. To a degree, I think it is, and it's remanifesting. Basically, it's kind of exciting, you know. It's kind of exciting, you know. I mean, culture and cult, you know. These days, it's becoming more tribal somewhere. You know, you can pick your cult. You've got the great Western cult of the father. You know, you work for the man, the system, and the system gives you a bit of result, or maybe you get a house and some money and stuff. Or you've got other cults around. You know, I was a member of the Osho cult for a long time. I was a punk for a long time. Lived pretty much on the street for quite a while as well when I was younger. And, you know, just different cults that you can join, you know. And you have to decide if they're really working for you at some point. For me, certainly the Osho cult was definitely the best. They still resist being called a cult. Everyone resists being called a cult. It's got so many negative kind of things to it. But as cults go, I would say it's definitely better than pretty much any other cult I was involved in, really. You know, certain Western societies are pretty crap cult for most people, but nevertheless, you know, it gives you a bit, mostly junk food, TV programs, and you know, menial about pharmaceutical preparations to try and stop you being so much anxiety or depression, essentially, from living in the cult. But so I'd consider Western society a pretty feeble cult, but it's also got positive aspects to it, you know. Culture, is culture falling apart? Yeah, I think it's falling apart constantly, you know. In the UK, it's falling apart a lot. I'm not personally super against it. Yes, it's very difficult for some people, older people who are brought up in a totally different culture with a totally different value system, to see it all changing. They don't really know what the fuck's going on. Basically, they don't really know what the fuck's going on. And some are probably okay and some are probably not okay, essentially. But, you know, change happens. Change happens. And what I think, change happens for the good in particular when no one's really organising it. You know, and in a sense, these kind of Google kind of things are good in that it's not so much one person making change. It's more like groups of people going into certain kinds of group behaviour and the culture somewhere following it all a bit, you know. People making a living on Airbnb or driving for Uber or whatever. You know, it's kind of, there is cultural change. And in a sense, that's quite exciting, you know. On several occasions I've said, like, you know, I'm not against people write to me and say, as a therapist, surely you must be against Trump and stuff like that. I say, well, not really. Not that I'm really into politics, but I mean, he's just shaking the world up. It's not so bad. It's not so bad. There's a part of everyone's mind that wants to dictate how the world should be, and it's the nature of existence that that part is going to get challenged to fuck. And Trump is an excellent change agent at doing that, you know. Volatile, mouthy, constantly changing his mind and just putting stuff out on social media. Fucking great, you know. I don't really see a problem with it, and most people who've got a problem with it, I mean, you could be in a group that's being strongly marginalised by him or making statements, and you've got an emotional reaction. I can understand it. I mean, I'm half Iranian. He's not very keen on Iranians, but you know, nevertheless, I think he's quite a change agent. So you know, I stand up for that. And there's a lot going on in our culture, which is good as well, as I see it. You know, for a while, I really believed in the decline of Western civilization. It was all getting worse, and at some point, I had to, sometime around the late '80s, when new dance music started to come out. You know, I just thought, actually, I fucking like this stuff. And it's different, you know, and people are taking ecstasy and changing. And I started to get more on the ride, as opposed to being all the values are being destroyed. But I never really believed in half of those values anyway. You know, I had not had a proper job since my mid-20s, really. I dropped out of culture when I was 21, pretty much, and was bumming around Europe. So nevertheless, I was still complaining for a while about how culture was falling down and Western civilization was collapsing and it was all wrong and bad, blah, blah, blah. And at some point I had to drop it, really, because I admitted I was starting to have a good time for once, really. Let's do another 5 minutes. If anyone's got another pertinent little thing to put in there, just go for it. I'm mouthing off a lot today anyway. But yeah, maybe I'll fall asleep later. Yeah, England, Colombia. It's going to be exciting. Will they win, or will they go back to being the same old England of the old days, when you get all your hopes up and they be dashed again down? probably some cultural conspiracy as well to keep the British working hard. Come on, England, indeed. Are you a Brit, Mr. or Mrs. Ride Forever? Come on, England, indeed. Yeah, I shall get up. I'll get up there in 5-10 minutes. Get a little bit of food. It's dinner time in the community at 7, so grab some food. Get up there and cheer England on. I don't eat so much dinner anyway. I've got a couple of bottles of ice cold alcohol-free beer. I'm Scottish, totally neutral, honest. Okay, it's okay, man. I don't mind. I don't mind. But yeah, shame the Brits and my girlfriend's Italian, and the Italians didn't qualify for once, so that's a major fucking drama in Italy, you know. Okay, so any other pertinent therapeutic comments or insights or anything anyone wants to share, just go for it. Or we'll bring this stream to a close in a minute or two. Thank you for tuning in, guys. It's been, yeah, a bit quiet over the last couple of weeks, but no worries. It's been a bit quieter. Maybe it's the summer. Often I seem to notice I get about 15 people tuning in at once. But anyway, a lot of people like to watch it later, so I enjoy making the streams, and maybe they give people a bit of energy. You know, some people I watch on YouTube because they just stick it out there sometimes. I watch the Hodge twins sometimes, you know, mega popular, and very, you know, young black male guys, twins who just really hammer stuff out. They're not that young anymore, actually. I think they're not that much younger than me, probably a decade younger than me. But I enjoy what they do. You know, a lot of people think it's terrible, but I enjoy what the Hodgkins get up to. And I like watching Elliot Hulse, you know, when he's up there doing it. He hasn't been doing so much recently, but just to get you get a kind of energetic hit off his presence and the way he puts stuff out. And people have told me they get a bit of a hit off me, so I like to put the videos out, and also, you know, give some of my experience to help people who really want to step up, help them to step up. Anyway, I think I'm gonna head off to watch the footy, and I hope you have a good evening wherever you are, and feel free to leave comments or do all that usual YouTube stuff. Okay, guys, bye for now. Over and out. Come on, England.